of these firms, what you could uh, um, uh, expect. Okay, so that's kind of the goal today. And like I said, feel free to stop me along the way so I could field questions. All right, so um, sorry, let me click it. And I see a lot of you on the line. And you're actually in my class, which I'm really excited you're here. For those of you who don't know me, I am a part-time professor with Cal Poly, so I am not a full-time lecturer. I have a full-time job I have my own accounting firm and a consulting business. And I also work for PricewaterhouseCoopers for 8 years as a senior manager and director there. Uh, got really busy, so I have some clients that I took with me into my personal practice. Um, as far as my teaching interests go, I know that I see some of you guys in my class. Accounting ethics is what I teach right now, and governmental accounting. I also teach internal audit, financial audit. In my current, I'm designing some courses around RPA, robotic process automation and artificial intelligence, and how that plays into accounting now. So that's one of my emphasis areas. And I have the following certifications here. So great to meet you here. So I'm just kind of giving you this knowledge. So if you have any questions related to these topics, feel free to reach out to me. You guys have my email. All right. So jumping into the topic at hand, right? So just kind of laying down the framework of digital upskilling. What does this mean? Um, we got to first put it into perspective. And what I mean by that is this particular year in 2020, what do we all go through today or this year? It's been a complete, our world really turned upside down for us, right? And at least it was for me, and I'm sure it was for a lot of you. What do we have in the beginning of the year? Pandemic, right? January, February timeframe, we had the pandemic. From there, we had immediately following that, we had a lockdown. Immediately following that, we had an economic recession brought about by the pandemic. And then during the middle of the year, we had civil unrest in the city. You guys recall what happened in Los Angeles with the civil unrest going on. And following that, because of this pandemic, we heard a lot about cyber incidents that occurred in across a lot of organizations, right? So this year is I mean, I don't know if you guys feel it, but this is a year for the history books, is what I really call it. It brought into focus a lot of changes for everybody, right? Look what we're doing right now. Everybody on Zoom, no face-to-face interaction, only on Zoom, right? So digital upskilling, we have to think about it in terms of what are we going through right now? We're going through unprecedented times in this particular year. That's why it's now being emphasized what I'm going to talk about today. So let's just kind of think about the foundation of where we're at before we jump into this topic. So you see the slides here. We had cyber attacks, economic recession, and the pandemic. And then because of these changes, right, at least from my professional perspective and with a lot of the big four firms, what they went through is a couple of things because of these things that occurred. Because of COVID mainly, right, it really redefined the way uh, accounting firms work now. And number one, right, we couldn't visit our clients. I can't go to my client sites now because all of their offices are closed. I can't have face-to-face time with them. I can't go to lunch with them, even if I wanted to. My teams that work for me remotely, we all started to use technology, right? Same thing that you guys are doing. We started utilizing Microsoft Teams, Zoom calls, Google Chats, Microsoft Projects. So this technology, the enhancements and the communication and the way we use technology to get work done, it just exponentially increased. And the need for that type of communication and the way we get work done, it just changed. We may have been using it before, but if it was at this level, now it became way up here, right? So just the way the accounting industry handled it, that was the initial thing. the use of technology, and the escalation, the speed of the change really ramped up. And then another thing that really the accounting industry took a hit on is really this. There was some hiring freezes that had to happen. I did mention earlier that there was a recession, right, guys? And let me take a poll right here, real quick, for your parents or maybe yourselves in the places that you're working in. Was there a hiring freeze announced at any of your guys' places you're working at? Maybe even furloughs, letting people go. Anybody?
Yeah, I would say my dad works at a dispatching company, so they
Hmm.
had to let a lot of people go, and also they stopped hiring as well.
Yeah, yeah. And this what Laura just said is not uncommon. This occurs at accounting firms too. So they stopped hiring for certain positions, and it really and what that means is the work still needs to get done, right? So believe it or not, this year for accountants and the accounting industry, the workload actually increased because of this hiring freeze. So this is the impact so far to the accounting industry. Now I want to talk about with this backdrop, right? Um, what really it brought into focus a lot of things that the current the current people that want to get into that industry, it brought into focus, hey, because of this change, what do we need to do, right, to shine a little bit more, to be recruited, right? And some of the things that accountants do within these firms, a different shift in focus. So these are the four I think really, to me and to a lot of the accounting firms, really highlighted because of the change. And I couldn't come up with a interesting acronym for this, but it's the four here that you see on your screen. Number one is I mentioned already, digital upskilling. Number two, agile adjacency. I'm going to get to that in a second. Number three, digital branding. Okay, and what that means, I think you might have already heard about this, is what is your brand? Not just on your resume, not just on paper, but what about your digital brand? I'm gonna speak to that a little bit more in detail. And number four, building relationships. Building relationships, and I'm not talking about boyfriend and girlfriend. Okay, right now we can't do that anyway, right, guys? But building relationships between coworkers, building relationships within the firm, and building relationships for your clients really changed the dynamic there. So these four things, especially if you're thinking of going into an accounting firm, I don't care if it's big four or any small firm, mid-tier, big firm, it doesn't matter. I think these four things you need to start thinking about or even focusing in on. Cool. So far so good. All right.
Yeah.
I can't see your faces, so it's all right. Cool. So let's dive into it. And I couldn't come up with an acronym. Dad B or Bad D. I don't know. But anyways, however you want to remember it, I hope this sinks in. Um, let's just do Dad B. Digital upskilling, agile adjacency, digital branding, and building relationships. Okay. So let's do number one, digital upskilling, right? Digital upskilling, because of COVID, as I was mentioning, is the use of technology within accounting firms and in workplaces dramatically changed. And what I mean by that is, like I said, the use of Zoom, Microsoft Teams, being able to communicate it with each other, and really, how do I communicate with my manager, right? If you are starting associate for an accounting firm, how do you get guidance from your manager that's not even next to you? Being able to understand technology and utilize it efficiently, effectively, and seamlessly with those that you work with is really pivotal. Let me give you an example. um, I have a manager that works for me, and he happened. it happened so that he didn't know how to use Zoom when this pandemic first hit. And it took a really long time for him to really get the camera, for example, and do a screen share and really share his screen and really manage his workforce based on Zoom. It took a long time, and it really impacted the delivery and timing of the work. So because he wasn't prepared for this change, it really impacted his performance. And I saw my colleagues, not just at my consulting firm, but in others, they are experiencing the same issues. Okay. Um, and what that means is for you guys, you're already beginning that process of understanding technology and what is able to be used. So I really encourage you guys, don't wait until you get hired. Explore these technologies and be able to use it when you get there. I think that's critical step number one. And this digital upskilling, right? I'm not trying to say that um, you need to know every little detail of every little technology. That's not the intent of this. But you need to be a little bit more savvy. At, take it to the next level. So let me go through that a little bit more. And these are just some stats, right? And I think again, this just backs up why technology is so much more important now. You see here, um, over half of all internet usage now is done on a mobile device, compared to just 31% 3 years ago. Um, and to me, that's just astounding. Um, because we tend to think that we're on our laptops all the time and we're on Google and Zoom calls and all that, but really that's not true anymore. A lot of people now, we're doing work on our iPads, we're doing work a lot on our mobile devices. So thinking about that, shouldn't we change the way we communicate with our clients? Shouldn't we start thinking about ways on how to deliver work via different methods of communication? So that's the implication there. Um, Another point here, traditional accountant reports, right, don't have same impact in a digitized world we live in now. And I want to get to that in a second. But what that means is, I think a lot of us on this call, we've been trained to write reports in Word format and then print it out. And then we submit it to our boss, or we submit it to our professors, right? We've been trained to think that way, very word based and paper based. But I'll tell you right now, that's changing now. The way we present information to our clients is changing. And then third here, sorry, sorry guys, give me one second. And then this third one here is the uh, complexity of data changed. Again, the COVID pandemic, even before that, right? The emphasis on data and how accountants are able to analyze data efficiently, quickly, that also brought into focus because of this year. Okay. And I'm going to say something that you may not want to hear, but hold on to your hats. Okay. So first, I want to talk to you about data analytics, right? That one that you just saw. Um, who's taken a data class with Cal Poly? Anybody? Raise of hands. No CIS person in this conference, really? Okay, Amanda has taken it. Okay. Um, this is going to be a big problem for us. I could already see this. The people that the accounting firms hire typically, right? You write on your resume, oh yes, I have experience with QuickBooks or Excel spreadsheets or Access databases. Um, that's typical of what I see in resumes and stuff, and students. experiences. But here's I'm gonna this is the drum the bomb I'm gonna drop on you guys today. Um, Excel and Access databases, great. I mean, that's basic stuff. But the accounting industry and in a real robust organization, we're moving beyond that. And the technology for analyzing data, spreadsheets and Excel is simply not enough to handle the volume of data. So new technologies, and you might want to jot this down, like technology like Alteryx and Telend, those are more robust data analytics tool that I see a lot now. And if my clients are using this type of technology or starting to move towards that technology, that means that as me as a accounting firm, I really need to understand that technology too. I need to be able to use it. I need to be able to recognize that technology. So I'm really emphasizing this and to young people that don't wait until you get to that level. Start exploring it on your own, right? Go to the Alteryx website, just check out what that is all about, and just have a awareness, right? It doesn't mean that you need to know how to use it, but at least know that these technologies are out there and what it means, right? I think that is a really critical step here. Is that data analytics? You're going to constantly hear it going forward. Let me stop here. Any questions so far? And I know I'm going to go really fast here, but um, any questions? Or have you guys ever heard of these types of technologies yet?
I was gonna ask if you could go into more detail about the Talend and Altery.
Yeah, Alteryx. So I
Alteryx.
have a lot of it's pronounced Alteryx, but this tool, and you guys could look it up. You could Google it. It's a bigger company. It is a software, okay, much like Excel, but it doesn't come in, you guys are used to the columns, right? Spreadsheet columns. It's not based on, this technology is not based on that. It's based on visualization. So in Microsoft, you guys might be used to doing equals, sum, this plus this, right? You guys are used to that. But what Alteryx does is it takes entire databases and it uses uh, visual cues. So you could do the addition with big data sets. And you're using basically, I don't know if you guys seen, oh man, I forget the name of the movie, but it's like Star Trek, right? Where they're using and bringing in like visuals to add and program spaceships and stuff. Quite frankly, it kind of looks like that. So that's what Alteryx is, and a lot of companies use it to uh, generate data, analyze data, and for their accounting functions as well. Okay, so check it out, Alteryx and data analytics.
I have a question.
Yes,
So where can you take like possibly a course online or something to learn about this?
yeah. For actually, Dr. Goma, I don't know if you guys, Dr. Goma
Yes.
teaches a analytics class. And he uses Tableau, I believe. And I don't want to misspeak here, but I think he does Tableau, which is very similar to Alteryx platform. So there's that option. Another option is go to the Alteryx website. There is a like a mini. It's not really a class, but it's a mini training, which they really just simply explain to you what it is, what the platform looks like, and what it could be used for. So for you guys, I think that might be helpful, just so you could understand how powerful this tool is. And if you guys are taking notes, I would recommend a, a software called Alteryx Designer. That's a specific module, Alteryx Designer. And even if you YouTube it, there's different tutorials on how to use it and all that.
Thank you.
Good question. Thanks, Amanda. Um, so data analytics, right? And then the next thing I want to talk to you a little bit about is data visualization. And this one occurred to me many years ago. Um, because one of my clients came to me and said he was a CFO for a studio, a small studio, and he said, you know, Jason, you gave me this audit report, and he brings this stack of paper because it was a 60-page report with charts and nice bar graphs and tables, and it looked very much like what you guys give me for assignments, okay? And it looked beautiful, but it was all in words. And he says, you know, I just paid you $600 to write this nice 60-page paper report for me. But he tells me, I don't like it. It doesn't communicate much to me. I don't want to read all this. Can you give it to me in a visual? Okay. And then that's was the epiphany moment for me. And I understood that I was way behind on the curve. But then there are technologies out there. Again, this is the digital upskilling part of my conversation today. Is there's technology now where you could take data that you process within Excel spreadsheets, even Alteryx I just mentioned, and then load it up onto these uh, softwares like ClickView, Tableau, MicroStrategy. These are softwares that translates raw data, right, into visuals. And what I mean by visuals is nice geographic spreadsheets and trending lines, all much easier than a spreadsheet can. Okay, and this is really this is a big trend right now already. But again, this is one of those technologies. These names I suggest you guys really know going forward. I think in college we're really in the beginning stages of really incorporating these types of technologies into textbooks, but I just don't. Um, it's not going to come on time before you guys go into industry. So data visualization, okay. And again, I really recommend that you guys go into some of these websites and just to check it out. All right. And another really related thing here, digital technology, is video and animation. And some firms now, right, when they do presentations for clients, they realize that, uh, again, reports, when you're presenting reports, PowerPoint's great, but now we're moving into an even next level. And what I mean by that is animation and videos, right? There's technology now that uh, we are using really to do like even more like a video and animation to present information and present um, objectives and conclusions based on data. So this is more of I think future on the horizon technology, but here are some technologies that I see people are going to start using to present information more readily, and which will stick to people's minds, right? You got applications like Powtoon and Movely, and maybe some of you have already used this, but Movely is a good one where uh, very simple to make a video without any coding. You don't have to know any special code or anything within this platform. So video and animation technology, even for accountants. All right. And trust me, I am not an art person whatsoever. My class could tell you that. My PowerPoints suck, right? I would love to be able to incorporate some of this stuff. Okay, so I mean, so the first couple of slides really were related to the digital upskilling, the technology aspect of it. But now I want to shift gears a little bit and talk to you a little bit about what I call agile adjacency. Agile adjacency. And what this means is a concept of managing your career. Okay. Um, More and more, I'm hearing is that my HR person, the big four HR recruiters, they recognize that college graduates, professional level, mid-career, and then senior executives, they don't go on a straight trajectory, right? A lot of times now, accountants just don't become accountants and just continue move up the chain. Accountants maybe in the beginning of their careers start off as accountants, and they might jump industries and become uh, programmers, and then they might jump and become a data scientist and come back to becoming an accountant. So the industry, basically the professional world, is moving in that direction, even more rapidly now. So I want to kind of show you a visual of that. Uh, so here on the left side, right? This is a old, what I call the old career path, where in any given firm, I don't care if it's a small firm, big firm, mid-tier firm, this left-hand side graphic will show you that at the very bottom, you got to start at the bottom. You are either a tax associate or an audit associate or accountant, right? You're always a beginning level associate. And the third year, you'll move up to a senior. The fifth year, you move to manager, senior manager, director, and partner, and so on. Okay, so that was the old way of moving up the ladder. And typically, if you start off in tax, you just move up this chain in the tax world, or you move up this chain in the audit world. Okay, this is the old model of moving up the career ladder. On the very right here's right hand side, you see the is what I call the new paradigm, or the new career path that I see more common now. Once you become so here on this triangle, you see that as accountants, you could start off as a non-accountant, right? For example, I see a lot of people starting in as a financial data analyst, because accounting majors have a wide variety. You guys have knowledge of numbers, debits, credits, right? Tax knowledge, data analytical skills. Um, some people will start off as financial data analysts, and maybe they'll do that for a year or two, and then they'll say, you know what? I want to actually go into uh, more of a consultant world. So they'll jump into the CPA firm and start doing more consulting work. Maybe they're going to do some Sarbanes-Oxley work, or becoming even a tax intern, for example. And maybe on the third year, they'll jump to being in the audit associate. So you see here already that the new career path, this paradigm is shifting. The model that, once you get into a firm, you're just going to move up that specific professional technical skill ladder. That is done. um, and then and this is why it's important that you understand this too. I think there's one reason. I think it's a fallacy to think that, hey, I'm going to be a tax accountant for the rest of my life because I love numbers, I love IRS forms, and that's the only thing I'm going to do, and I'm married to it. I don't think that's going to fly anymore. More and more, you're going to have to know tax. You're going to have to know technology. You're going to have to know analytics like Alteryx. And the people who are going to move up the promotional ladder are the people who are going to be more diversified in those skill ranges, right? Because that's what the industry is looking for. Individuals that have that broad-based knowledge that could provide value across a spectrum of skills. Am I angering anybody here so far, or is this basic stuff, you guys?
I just feel like you're not sugarcoating it, which in a way I think it's valuable, because I feel like everyone we've talked to has always said the old career path, and you're kind of not necessarily stuck in one area, but they also kind of scare you in the sense where you kind of feel like there's no room for growth in your career.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of, to me, it's kind of refreshing to know that you can just kind of bounce around anywhere wherever you feel comfortable. And
Sure.
I've always agreed knowledge is power, and I've always wanted to learn tax and audit and then a little bit of everything. So I think the new career path is more enticing to me than the old career path is.
Sure, sure. Yeah, and I appreciate that feedback, Abigail, because, you know, uh, again, people change, right? I don't buy the theory that once you graduate, your learning stops and you have a accounting degree and that's it. I don't buy that. And I've seen it in my personal career. Many of my colleagues, uh, they first start off at Price Waterhouse, they move up to the director position, and then they'll go out into the industry and become a data analyst, right? And I've seen that model over and over. So, by preparing that this is the new way of doing it, I think that'll prepare you guys, right, for making better decisions as you progress into your career. Okay, and there is no like sometimes there's a stigma, honestly, of hey, I got to be in the I got if I'm going to go into an accounting firm, I got to start off an audit and I got to do it at 3 years and I got to move up as a senior. Um, uh, yes, that is a strategy, and I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying there's the industry is morphing. It's becoming different, right? So that these are just thoughts. Okay, so we did the digital upskilling. Now I talked to you about this new career path and paradigm. So get ready for this. And I want to talk to you about the third one. And in these COVID pandemic times, and this is becoming even more important now. And this might seem like very basic, but trust me, I've seen so many failed attempts at this. I want you guys to be prepared. Um, Digital branding. It's like, what is that? I never heard of that, Jason. Well, guess what? You're already doing it. Uh, and what this means is basically, right? What is your personal brand, right? Everybody has a brand here. Jason Nishiyama has a brand. Courtney has a brand, right? But I'm not talking about a resume, a piece of paper resume or PDF resume that you send off to recruiters. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your social media accounts, your LinkedIn profiles, your Facebook accounts. What image are you communicating to the world? And there is no difference between your personal lives and then the professional image that you want to portray to recruiters and about yourself as you move forward with your career. Okay, there is no difference anymore because guess what? HR personnel, when you put in an application, they're checking your Facebook account. Trust me, your Instagram account. Trust me. So I want you. What I'm trying to communicate here is you have to take when you start your career off, you have to take a measured approach, a balanced approach, a holistic approach to creating your LinkedIn profile. What's that brand going to be, right? Are you a professional? Are you a fun and go-lucky person that is a creative type, and you want to convey that message to as an image, or do you want to be a suit person, right? That's going to move up the chain. What brand are you trying to convey? That needs to be thought out and then planned for. Any questions on that?
I personally don't use social media as much, but I do have a LinkedIn and all that. But I just don't. I'm not very active in that. How would you say that affects me? Would that kind of limit my opportunities, or?
Sure. Yeah, good question. So I would say it doesn't limit your opportunity, but it does limit the way you communicate your brand. So if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, for example, because LinkedIn is the uh, number one profile builder for professionals in industry, right? So when I meet a person for the first time via email these days, there's a LinkedIn profile that they could click on and we could connect at that point. Um, so if you don't have a profile, you're not communicating that. You're not communicating that Walter Vong, I am the president of Beta Alpha Psi. If you don't communicate that, then no one's gonna know. And how are you going to take credit for something you don't communicate? I think that's critical. Um, and some people do it differently, right? Some people have a LinkedIn profile only, and no Facebook because they don't want to communicate their personal lives, which is maybe partying and all that, but they want to, their image is a professional, right? There's different strategies to this, but trust me, people are watching. Recruiters are looking. Uh, when you do try to get a job, it's not the resume that they're looking at. They're checking in on your LinkedIn profile, right? And definitely your Facebook and Instagram stuff that's out in the public. Um, Let me give you an example that I thought was a total fail, and I don't want you to do this. On the left-hand side here, you'll see and I'm not, obviously I'm not going to tell you this person's name, but this is a former colleague of mine, and he was a director at Price Waterhouse, and his credentials and his LinkedIn profile is immaculate, right? And you see here very uh, great resume, right? Trajectory, the director. And then on the right side here, she was a this is her personal account, okay, where she's drinking up and partying with her friends on her Instagram account. So what I mean by this is that your brand, your digital brand, is conflicting, right? If you're it's okay to show that you're a partying person on Instagram, but on LinkedIn, you're portraying something different, and it conflicts. So again, and I think this is even greater importance to young people because I get it, um, partying, being with your friends, and being social, and that's the whole point of social media. I get it, but what's your objective next steps as your career progresses? Do you want to be known as the partying person, or do you want to be known as, hey, I'm the professional, I'm ready for the accounting industry, please hire me? You have to do that balance work. So polish your digital brand now rather than later. I would highly recommend that, especially now when um, you can't interact in person. This becomes even more important. Oh, did I hear a question? Sorry. Okay. And then lastly, right, out of the four things, this last one is also a very important element of digital upskilling is relationships. Relationships. It's like Jason, I'm an accountant. I don't know anything about relationships. Well, guess what? Um, Most of the accounting firms recognize that it's not about technical acumen, but this here on this slide, you'll see that at Price Waterhouse, we have what we call a professional developmental framework, where we emphasize business acumen, technical capabilities, global acumen, leadership, and then here you'll see this particular one called relationships. Um, and what this means is that you need to be able to build professional relationships with yourselves, with your clients that you service, and your colleagues, right? Being able to formulate that trust and that bond with your clients is of significant importance. And the big four firms and all of them have a similar framework, and you'll see that relationships and being able to know how to communicate yourself effectively and build a relationship is a super key and important thing. And this is a quote from a partner, one of my mentors. He's told me in the past, building relationships of high value, which are genuine and rooted in trust and each other. This is the most single important lesson I've learned in public accounting. And this is coming from a partner. He's been a partner for 34 years. Um, Retired now, so he has big experience. And he's saying it's not about what you know technically, but at his level, the single most important thing is about forming relationships with each other and his clients that he serves. Um, And then more in detail, like what does that mean, Jason? I gotta like relationships. I mean, I have a relationship with my boyfriend or girlfriend or my mom and dad. Um, yes, that's true. That's important, but what are we talking about? Some key things, right? Listen and empathize with others, right? Um, when you are on Zoom calls, when you're meeting someone for the first time on Microsoft Teams, are you building relationships by turning on your camera, right? Are you listening appropriately? Are you communicating with confidence and clarity? A lot of times right now, I communicate a lot via Zoom, but I always turn on my camera. Got it. Um, because a profile picture, you can't communicate facial expressions the way I'm dressed, right? Um, it all plays a part in formulating that relationship with the person I'm working with. If I don't show my face, how does the other person know um, how I'm reacting, how I'm trying to convey certain things, right? And vice versa. So you're going to have to be ready for that. And I get it. For your classes now, you're not required to turn on your camera. I get that, but be ready to be able to turn on that camera when you go to work, because this virtual environment that we are in now, this is going to be the future, for the foreseeable future. Be ready to form that relationship. Your profile picture on Zoom ain't going to cut it. I'll just be straight with you. If I'm going to hire somebody, I want to see that person's face. I want to see facial expressions. I want to see hand gestures. I want to see dress. So that's relationship building. And then this finally, right, network building. I think that's also very important. We emphasize that in all of the accounting firms. And what that means is what you guys are doing right now, networking with each other in these beta alpha accounting societies. But you need to take it a step further. You need to go join the Cal CPA, your local Cal CPA. They have monthly and bi-monthly chapter meetings. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, students are free to join. Join them and announce yourself. Hey, I'm a new member. You know, I like to get involved. There's other organizations like the Institute of Internal Auditors, the IIA. They're also always have free student memberships and job postings, and in various other networks that you could join to build that relationship. Oh, okay, that's pretty much it. I kind of went really fast, guys, but these four things I think are really crucial, especially right now during times of pandemic, remote learning, and remote work. Um, Questions? Or are you guys kind of stunned and just like, what did this guy just tell me?
Other than the technologies that you presented in the beginning, is there any others that you suggest looking into that we could possibly, write down?
Uh, I'm sorry, which one are you talking about? The
I'm sorry.
Alteryx or?
With the digital upskilling.
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, there's tons of other stuff out there, depending on which way you go. Like if you're going to become a tax person, you want to know tax software that's out there, right? But if you want to go more of like technical accounting, SAP, right, or Oracle, general ledger accounting, uh, you know, you need to know that. But that technology's been there forever, like enterprise resource planning software. So SAP is a big one that a lot of companies use.
Okay.
Yep.
And then you also talked about how you're designing a course with artificial intelligence and robotic automation, I believe. Can you give us like a preview of what that course would be like?
That one is, it's actually not at Cal Poly, but if they were to do something like this, we'd be happy to teach it. Robotic process automation, what that is essentially artificial intelligence. So a lot of the accounting functions now audit functions and tax functions and general ledger, posting entries and journal entries and such. That is becoming more and more automated. And what I mean by that is you'll have certain accounts that need to be posted based on certain documentation. And what it is a bot. You could program a bot and it'll go do that job for you. And it'll go to a document, it'll extract data from a PDF, let's say, for example, and they'll put it into a debits and credits field in SAP. That's called robotic process automation. So there's technology now that enables that. It's almost taking the accountant's job away, but then there's a lot of research going into that, and um, that's basically the future. So we're trying to develop a course where it introduces certain that.
It sounds like it's not necessarily just accountants, but more like the bookkeeping duties, right? That it's going to eliminate.
It won't eliminate everything because guess what? Who programs those bots?
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's you guys. It's the technical accounting people that programs RPA and reviews to make sure that they did it correctly, right? So that's the future. That's really the future. And RPA is not perfect. They're still working on it, but um, that's kind of the intent of RPA, to save time. So smart people like you guys could do more technical functions rather than the day-to-day, right? Just debits and credits, review, approve. So that's the intent.
I have a question. I know it's like a thing that's been said, like, oh, accountants are very like straight to the point. They're not creative thinkers and things like that. And then to some extent, I can agree to that because I'm not a very creative person. And going into more a technology base where financial reporting is going to be more charts, more visual. How would you give advice on how to kind of change our minds to be more creative?
Well, yeah, great question, Abigail. I I struggle with it all the time, right? Because that as you said, we're structured people, right? We've been trained. Hey, this is what GAAP tells you. This is how you do it. This is how debits and credits goes. That's it. The way I've seen, the way I train myself is I'm a voracious reader, and I go through. What helps a lot for me is Wall Street Journal on my Apple News. I just look at examples, honestly. Right now, there's a lot of COVID data out there. So there's the John Hopkins data, but then they do a really great job of taking really complicated technical data and putting it into like nice visuals and graphs. And I look at that example and I sort of train myself. Oh, that's nice. Like you could put it in a GIS mapping, right? You could map the COVID data on a map and kind of show it more visually. And another example is like I read what you call it? Sorry, I forget the name of the. It's not John Hopkins. Like I think it was the New York Times, for example. When they map the presidential election results, they do blue versus red versus numbers, and there's a little table underneath that. That's just really interesting, and I just really kind of absorb it almost. That's the only way I could train myself because there's no course on becoming creative as accountants. I can't think of anything like that. But just being able to like consume more information for yourself to really train your brain. Hey, this word, it's not going to work. It's too technical. Maybe a photo is better. Maybe it's time to do a visual here. Having to train your brain that way, I think, is a good way to do it.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Walter, isn't this the time where everybody gets a margarita now, or?
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah.
Okay, I don't have anything else, but yeah, if I have my contact information up here as a part of building relationships. That's what I do. Here's my LinkedIn profile. Check me out. Feel free to email me with questions, and I'd be happy to address those as well.
Thank you for coming out.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Have a great
Thank you.
day.
We appreciate it.
Thank you, Professor.